Good afternoon, councillors, members of the Capital Projects and Tenders Committee. Welcome to this meeting of this committee, and also to the staff who are in attendance with us in Council Chambers today. We have an apology from Francois Chimoy. Any others?
No, Chair.
Move that his apology be received and accepted. Someone like to second that, please? Councillor Hart, those in favour, please signify the usual way. Wave at me, thank you very much. Motion carried. Declarations of interest in the normal way, you know the drill. Those are on Teams. Please make certain those are up to date. No urgent items. Okay, we just need to formally receive the minutes of previous meetings. They have been circulated. That's the Capital Projects and Tenders Committee meeting minutes of the 9th of February and the Extraordinary Committee meeting minutes of the 21st of April 2022. So you had the opportunity of reading those. So I shall move that the minutes of the Capital Projects and Tenders Committee meeting held on the 9th of February 2022 and 21st of April 2022 be confirmed as a true and correct record of those meetings. Would someone be in favour of seconding that motion, please? Councillor David, thank you. Those in favour, please signify. Thank you. I approve that my digital signature be added to the confirmed Capital Projects and Tenders Committee meeting minutes of 9th of February 2022 and the Extraordinary Committee meeting minutes of 21st of April 2022. Okay, it's the action man. Action list. Thank you. Scott.
So there are two actions. The first one was the Wharf Street Stormwater Pipe Project, and it was for Councillor Davidson to be provided with a brief on the project. This brief was given at the last meeting, and this matter is now concluded. The second item was that a seismic report is put together on the bridges within the district, and that's to be provided to the committee for their information. We are currently working with other local authorities on the West Coast and are picking this up within a combined West Coast transportation asset management plan, which we will then bring back here once we've got that completed.
Okay, any councillors have any questions? Scott, in relation to those two matters? No questions? Okay. Thank you. We need a motion to accept. Just stay there, Scott. I think you're on next. I think we need a motion receiving his report. Please to move motion accordingly. Anna Hart, second to that. Those in favour, please signify. Thank you. Motion carried. Now, presentation, Scott, from you. Thank you.
Okay. Bring that up, please. Okay, I would just like to start by saying this is not as comprehensive as the report that the committee normally gets, which is mainly as a result of some logistical issues that we've needed to work with. I am proposing to do a more comprehensive presentation at the next Capital Project Committee meeting, and there will be a comprehensive update in the Chief Executive's report to Council in June. So what we have done is we have picked what I would describe as the big ticket items on here, but I accept there may be some questions that councillors have that are not on this presentation. We can either pick them up in the meeting as we go forwards, or I can come back with specific answers to people later. If we could move on to the next slide, please. So in terms of the way the presentation is structured, we're looking at current projects within 2022, and I've also got a section at the end that looks at completed projects as well. So in terms of this slide, looking at the Arrowwater water treatment plant, we are very, very near to completion on this particular project. The final element with it is about accessing the Kiwi Rail corridor, and that has actually delayed the final completion. We are expecting this to be dealt with and responded to in the next 14 days. So it has proved to be a little challenging for us. In terms of moving on to the water mains upgrade, councillors may notice that some of the projects here are now linked together. Now we've done that deliberately in procurement terms to try to put together what I would describe as more financially meaningful contracts for contractors to bid for. You will pick up later in the confidential area some of the challenges that we get in terms of getting people to actually submit tenders within this locality. So on the Camara mains upgrade, we've now joined that with the Harry contract, and it's really awaiting the engineer to come back, who is imminently going to be around, and then we will send out the documents following that. Next slide, please. Hokitika mains replacement, contracts awarded to Trueline. We're awaiting installation dates to come through. Moving on to Fox Glacier water treatment plant. We've got the order placed, but we have timeline issues alongside this. It is becoming an increasing feature of a lot of the work we do now, which is about supply chain management and the logistics of getting materials. So we're looking at an 8-month ETA, and therefore we're looking at a January 23 deadline for that. Harry water mains replacement, as I talked earlier on, that's in the same position as the earlier one that I discussed. Hokitika Z-line section replacement, that's down as confidential at the moment. It's one of the two things that we've got to sort out. We can't actually discuss that in the public arena. Moving on to the next slide. Custom house, the replacement of weatherboards are complete. Repiling is now required, and that of course requires building consent, which is now lodged. We're waiting now for the availabilities of builders to do the work. The beachfront development car parking, I know Councillor Davison raised that with me this morning in a separate discussion. It includes new parking at Sunset Point and Beach Street. The far left car park is not going ahead, and additional car parks are added to Beach Street. It says on here tenders are due to be evaluated week 2nd of May. This will get picked up in the confidential element of the meeting a little bit later on. Next slide, please. Hokitika beachfront access ramp. There's a little photograph on the side, and certainly councillors will have seen this before. A series of interlocking blocks have been provided by Westlock Limited. Lidl Contracting are going to be installing. Beach access ramp components are being constructed, and negotiations with the ramp install contractor is underway regarding the timing of this. But we're expecting the installation due to start relatively soon.
Where's that going, Scott?
So just straight out from Wellington, straight ahead. So what you see there is not the final design. It's just to show us pictorial what it could require.
So how will that withstand the ravages of the sea?
That's what it's designed to do. So
it won't be buried in the sand and debris and stuff.
So it's going to have to be buried quite deep into the sand layer to allow it to get undermined, but it will be up to the same height as the existing seawall.
Right.
And obviously we'll be softening the externals so it doesn't look like a hard feature as well, and potentially some planting technicality to soften.
Okay, Paki Waitara building, and this has been subject to council workshop to discuss outline ideas. Architectural designs have been developed by Dalman Architects. The senior executive team has had a look at some of these initial drawings, as have councillors through workshops. There's some further discussions that are going to be held later this week with the chief executive and I, in terms of trying to firm things up a little bit more. And we are bringing back proposals to council later in May in terms of what we're looking at. So there's a lot of activity around that area. Far more than is actually reflected in the little box in the presentation. Next slide, please. So, swimming pool upgrade. Phase 1, as councillors will be aware, is complete. Phase 2 is very nearly due to move forwards. There's been a lot of activity in terms of the architect's work. And getting the relevant appropriate resource consents. We're anticipating that things are going to close down in June, and that the project will run through in terms of closure until October time. There will continue to be works done to the pool once it's back open, because the things that we can run in parallel and do at the same time. We're literally just at the very, very final stages of confirming timelines and our expectations with contractors. And I am about to talk to a number of the service users in partnership with Destination Westland, so we can consult on how it's going to impact the community and what things can be done there. In terms of the Carnegie building, there's been a lot of activity on Carnegie, and if councillors have had the opportunity to go out and have a look at what's been done, it's been really impressive, the work that's gone through. We are now a gnat's whisker away from completing the earthquake elements of the project. Unfortunately, there's been some delays, and it's been caused by a combination of COVID-related activities, and also, as with a number of the projects that are going on across New Zealand, logistical issues around supply chain management. But in the main of this one, it's been COVID. So we're anticipating a completion of June 2022, and then it moves into the next phase, which is fit out and design around that area. Next slide, please. Jackson Bay Wharf repair is interesting because it's in both projects to do and projects completed. On the projects to do elements, there are still a number of areas that we've got to strengthen in terms of also piling and decking. We are looking at the moment at the logistics of how we both do it and fund it. So there's an exercise ongoing at the moment that myself and the chief executive are involved with in discussion with other parties around that. But we are hopeful that there will be something that we can put in place that will seriously rejuvenate Jackson Bay Wharf moving forwards. On the forward plan for footpaths, we are now well underway with that project. So there were delays with that. The delays with that were linked again to the implications of COVID, external contractors that we've had involved in that. But now we're now moving forwards. The top end of Park Street expected to be completed towards the end of this week with reinstatement next week. The crew will then move into town to install the footpath outside Mitre 10, which I know has been some consternation for people and its surrounds. And in Canary, the prep work for ceiling is to be completed this week and for St Albans Street. So things are moving forwards. And outside of Hokitika, footpaths on Canary Street, fans have been prepped and passed on to the ceiling. So things are moving. Next slide, please. Canary pedestrian cyclist crossing and intersection layout change. Hot off the press, I am advised that we are expecting this to be completed this week. There have been some delays last week that were based upon inclement weather, but they're actually out on site at the moment. And I am advised that we will follow that up pretty quickly with road lining. So when I say road lining, I mean the white lining on the roads. The roading maintenance contract, that went live, and it said started on the 3rd, it should say 3rd of December. That's a new contract that came into place based on a cost plus methodology, and that's working extremely well for us, and is a significant improvement on where we were prior to that. Cass Square Playground, councillors will be aware that there's been a lot of discussion around Cass Square, both involving the playground, the skate park, and other areas around that. We are in the process of doing a feasibility for lotteries. I want to do a lotteries application in July to bring some additional funding in. Councillors will recall that the decision was made that was actually what we wanted to do, and we wanted to get the timing lined up with lotteries rather than move ahead now and fund it out of revenue that we've got. Next slide, please. Cass Square toilet upgrade. Please feel free to spot the deliberate mistake. We've got a start date of the 7th of January and a completion date of the 8th of January. Clearly that's right. We are anticipating that the toilets will be on site next month. It's subject to consenting at the moment. Not quite sure where that 8th of January date came from, but I wish all projects we could turn around that quickly. Cass Square skate park upgrade. Again, this is tied into lottery application, and also we've got specialist designers involved in putting together a proposal for us. So you know that's moving forward and will be in line with what we're doing with the playground. Next slide, please. So I'm moving on to completed projects, and I'll just give an overall view for councillors in that when you look at the stimulus funding money that we received through Crown Infrastructure, it was a huge project to deliver $6.8 million worth of work and projects on the ground within a very tight time frame. With the project management team that we've got within the council. And we are very close now to having not only completed all the projects, so all bar 2 projects are done, and the 2 projects that are not fully completed are due to be finished by the end of June. But in terms of the spend profile, we've actually managed to spend the money that was needed. The team have been very creative in being able to, where they've saved money on some projects, being able to utilise it for others. And if I can just pass sort of remarks on the team on the ground, actually, that they've done a really good job in moving this forward. So in terms of the individual completed projects, Franz Joseph water treatment plants, that was completed ahead of schedule. Harry water treatment plant upgrade, again completed ahead of schedule. River Flatgate at Hokitika completed ahead of schedule and under budget. Heritage lighting was under budget. Franz Joseph water main replacement, basically water main, house water main, Harry new reservoir. All of these things have been done and done well. So we're very pleased with what's happened on the 3 waters front. What that has meant for us is that some of the annual plan projects that we would otherwise have done may have slipped a little bit, and that's because we've focused on spending the money that we knew we needed to spend within the time frame that had come in from government. So there's a number of projects that we were discussing yesterday to do with the LTP and the annual plan that we move forward into next year. And I'll pick that up in the report that Simon will give in June to council. And then finally, the Jackson Bay Wharf upgrade. And the reason it's completed is because we spent all the money that we committed to get that part of the wharf completed, and that is now done. So I'm quite happy to take questions. I've got colleagues in the room as well that can pick up some more detail if there's any areas that I've not covered that you feel that you want some further answers on.
Can we go back one screen, Di? Scott, in the difference column in the middle there, they're all negative figures. That's the one. Does that mean they're under budget by that percentage? Is that what those figures signify?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It is, and what we've done with that is we've shifted it around to other areas. So the key issue for us has been not to give any money back. So we've done a lot of work, a lot of activity, and yeah, it's been very keenly done.
All credit to your team to be able to bring in so many projects under budget and by those percentages. That's fantastic. Well done. Councillors, any questions of Scott on this report, please?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Just on the beach access ramp, is Regional Council approval required for the design and construction of this?
So I can pick that one up. So Regional Council will be involved working alongside Westlock as their main partner. So Westlock will be working with Brendan Rice in terms of design, and it's meant to be incorporated into the overarching wall upgrade for Hokitika Beachfront. Even though this is an independent project in itself, they have promised council's contribution towards this, bearing in mind that all of this is funded from TIF funding. So the council contribution is meant to be coming from Regional Council. So I've asked Scott to make sure an invoice goes towards the directly.
Thank you, Simon.
Any other questions, councillors?
Can I just offer a clarification to the question that I was asked by the chair about the difference? Is the first column, which is the difference next to the date, is the timeline difference. It's not a cash difference. The second difference area on the right-hand side, next to the one where it says actual spend, is the cash difference.
Right. Thank you. Councillors, any further queries? Okay, and there being none, Scott, you've done a good job. No questions. I'm pleased to move that report from the Group Manager of District Assets be received and accepted. Would councillor please signify seconding of that motion?
Oh, sorry, Paul's got to send that.
Councillor Davison.
Paul.
Sorry.
Thank you. Through the chair, the proposed new skate park. Can I just clarify that this is subject to external funding, correct?
We're making an application for external funding. My recollection is that we'd already identified some funding internal for that, or am I mistaken?
No. So it will be part of the total package for Cass Square as a stage 2 concept. So the first lot of funding for application will be for stage 1, which is the playground equipment. Stage 2 hopefully will be funded as a stage 2 separate allocation of funding.
Yes, it's not been entirely clear. So so stage 2 it is subject to external funding.
The budget we have in our annual plan or our LTP won't go all the way towards completing a full blind skate park. It was always to be used as a contribution factor for external funding. Yes, so there will be some allocation of council funds, which is the 200,000 we've allocated in the budget.
Is there no appetite to throw this out to the community as a community project?
If the community comes forward, we would definitely take them on as partnership.
Yes.
We've got quite a bit of time because we won't be doing the skate park until stage 2 of the application. So I expect we can have further discussions on this with the community.
So I don't have any problem with the new skate park, but I firmly believe that it ought to be fundraised in the community, as they did in Greymouth and Westport and Reefton. It was entirely outside the councils. And I don't see why we should be the exception and provide it on a plate.
Okay, thanks, Paul. That's been noted by Chief Executive. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, there is a motion which has been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please signify. Motion is carried. Thanks much, Scott. That's encouraging report as always. I shall now move that the Capital Projects and Tenders Committee meeting move into the public excluded section. Someone second that motion, please. Councillor Hart. Those in favour signify. Motion carried. Thank you. So we're now in the. No, we need to.
We need to disconnect.
We need to